In February 2025, the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, also known as the nuclear watchdog, revealed in its report that Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium, up to 60%, had reached 275 kilograms. These figures were astonishing because in the November 2024 report, the stockpile was 185 kilograms. That means in just 3 months, Iran enriched nearly 90 additional kilograms of uranium to 60%, which is an extraordinary amount. According to experts, if this stockpile is further enriched to 90%, that is to weapon-grade level, then theoretically it is enough to make 6 nuclear bombs. According to the Nuclear Watchdog Agency, Iran is now only one technical step away from weapon-grade uranium. This update significantly increased the concern of Iran's adversaries, especially the United States and Israel. The pressure that already existed on Iran to not develop nuclear weapons intensified even further. U.S. President Donald Trump began demanding a new deal from Iran, otherwise threatening to attack Iran's nuclear sites. For this purpose, the U.S. also deployed 6 B-2 bombers on Diego Garcia Island in the Indian Ocean. Afterwards, in March 2025, Donald Trump wrote a letter to the Iranian supreme leader demanding a new nuclear deal. This letter reached Iran's foreign minister and then the supreme leader via a diplomat from the UAE. According to unofficial sources, in this letter, Trump demanded that Iran completely roll back its nuclear program and entirely abandon uranium enrichment. He gave Iran a 2-month deadline and threatened military action if Iran did not comply. In the letter, Trump also stated that if Iran agreed to the negotiations and demands, sanctions would be eased. Additionally, the letter included demands to stop funding and arming Hezbollah, Hamas, and other Iranian proxies in the region. Ayatollah Khamenei rejected Trump's New Deal offer, calling it merely a deception. According to him, if Trump never intends to fulfill any deal, then what's the point of talking? Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi expressed more or less the same views. Clearly, the mistrust stems from Trump himself, as in 2018 he unilaterally withdrew the U.S. from the Obama-era nuclear deal. The 2015 deal, known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, explicitly stated that Iran, under any circumstances, would not pursue nuclear weapons. Despite the mistrust, Iran agreed to negotiate a nuclear deal with the U.S. through the cooperation of Oman. The first round of talks took place in Oman on April 12th. Most of this negotiation was indirect, in which Oman played a pivotal role. Oman's foreign minister Badr al-Busaidi played a central role in communicating between the Iranian and American delegations. The Iranian delegation was led by Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, while the U.S. delegation was led by Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff. Both delegations were in separate rooms, and messages were carried between them by Omani representatives. Both sides described the first round as constructive and based on mutual respect. The second round of talks was held in Rome, Italy, and the third round was once again held in Oman. The next round, which was to involve technical-level experts, was scheduled for May 3rd, but was postponed due to logistical reasons, as announced by the Omani foreign minister. The question arises, why does Donald Trump want a new nuclear deal with Iran? What objections did he have to the original deal under Obama? What could be different in a new deal? And will Iran agree to all of the U.S.'s demands? What are the prospects of a new deal? And what does Israel want? We'll explore all these questions regarding Iran's nuclear program, but first, let's take a brief look at its history. Iran's nuclear program began in 1957 under the Atoms for Peace program with the help of the U.S. In 1967, Iran received its first nuclear reactor from the U.S. In 1968, Iran signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, NPT, an international agreement under which signatories commit to using nuclear technology only for peaceful purposes, and their activities are monitored by international experts. In the 1970s, Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi approved a plan to build 23 nuclear power stations across Iran by 2000. At that time, Iran's nuclear program had full support from the U.S. and European nations, as the Shah was a close U.S. ally. After the 1979 revolution, Western countries withdrew support for Iran's nuclear program. Political turmoil and the Iran-Iraq War also caused the program to stall. In 2002, reports emerged about Iran's undeclared nuclear sites, which triggered alarm in the international community, as Iran had not reported these sites to the IAEA, violating the NPT. From that point, Iran's nuclear intentions came under suspicion. Iran maintained its program was for peaceful purposes, but according to the IAEA, some activities suggested weapons development. The US, EU, and UN Security Council imposed various sanctions on Iran, targeting its foreign assets, oil exports, and banking sector. These sanctions severely affected Iran's economy. Oil exports plummeted, the currency lost value rapidly, inflation soared, and Iran became nearly disconnected from the global financial system. Despite this, Iran continued enriching uranium, increasing global concern. The US and Europe feared Iran was nearing the capability to produce nuclear weapons. Iran insisted its program was peaceful, for electricity generation and medical research. After years of secret and public negotiations, a breakthrough came in 2013 when moderate President Hassan Rouhani took office in Iran. He supported diplomatic engagement, and President Barack Obama also sought a diplomatic solution. Between 2013 and 2015, the EU and P5+1, the US, UK, France, Russia, China, and Germany, held multiple rounds of talks with Iran. The goal was to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons while allowing peaceful nuclear activities. On July 14, 2015, an agreement was reached, the JCPOA. Under the deal, Iran was allowed to enrich uranium only up to 3.67%, which is sufficient for peaceful uses. Weapons-grade uranium requires 90% enrichment. The deal also limited Iran's enriched uranium stockpile to 300 kilograms until 2030. The IAEA was granted full access to monitor Iran's nuclear facilities. Most international sanctions on Iran were lifted. Iran regained access to oil exports, the banking system, and foreign assets. The deal was hailed as a model for non-proliferation, though some countries, notably Israel and Saudi Arabia, were dissatisfied. They believed Iran might pause its weapons ambitions temporarily, but resume them later. When Donald Trump took office in 2016, he called the JCPOA a bad deal and withdrew the U.S. from it in 2018. He argued it only temporarily delayed Iran's weapons program. Trump reimposed sanctions on Iran. According to Trump's terms, after 15 years, that is, in 2030, when the limits on Iran's uranium enrichment percentage and stockpile expire, Iran would once again move towards making a nuclear bomb. This was also the concern of America's ally, Israel. Therefore, both the United States and Israel wanted a complete ban on Iran's future uranium enrichment and stockpiling. In addition, Trump objected that the nuclear deal did not mention anything about stopping Iran from developing ballistic missiles. Naturally, when the U.S. violated the agreement and unilaterally withdrew from it, Iran also started creating some obstacles for the IAEA in terms of inspecting and surveilling nuclear facilities. Moreover, Iran increased its level of uranium enrichment, which has been revealed in recent reports. At the time the U.S. withdrew from the agreement, Iran was still fully complying with all conditions under the JCPOA. Although Iran has consistently emphasized that it will not develop nuclear weapons, its supreme leader declared that making a nuclear bomb is wrong and that using it is against Islamic law and is forbidden. Here's what he said. You can listen for yourself.
هم ساختنش غلطه، هم نگه داشتنش غلطه، چون به کار بردنش حرامه.
These developments raised concerns in the U.S. and especially in Israel, which started pressing for a new deal or potential military action. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and recently dismissed National Security Advisor Michael Wards want Iran to destroy or transfer its enriched uranium to another country. They also want Iran to completely shut down its nuclear program like Libya, even for peaceful purposes. Steve Witkoff, initially supportive of allowing Iran to enrich up to 3.67%, now aligns with the dominant Trump administration view. Iran must halt all enrichment. Some reports suggest restrictions on Iran's missile program might also be included in the New Deal, though details are unclear. On the other hand, Iran is open to negotiations mainly to get sanctions lifted and improve its economy, perhaps the main reason the supreme leader is even considering a deal with Trump. However, Iran is not willing to completely abandon enrichment or destroy its existing stockpile. Nor is it open to restrictions on its ballistic missile program. Iranian leaders are absolutely unwilling to make a deal like Libya did, because they know very well what happened to Libya after it fully abandoned its nuclear program in 2003. Iran is also unwilling to destroy or transfer the uranium it has already enriched. Instead, it wants to store it within its own territory. Furthermore, Iran is not ready to negotiate any restrictions on its defense program, including its ballistic missile program. Iran also wants guarantees from a third party in case the U.S. again unilaterally withdraws from the deal. So both sides have clearly stated demands and are likely to hold firm. Time will tell if a deal is reached. Upcoming negotiation rounds will be crucial. Israel, however, is not in favor of any concessions to Iran and is lobbying strongly in the U.S. Israel has repeatedly tried to sabotage Iran's nuclear program. In 2010, it carried out a cyber attack on Natanz. It is also accused of assassinating Iranian nuclear scientists, notably Mohsen Fakhrizadeh in 2020, through a high-tech attack. Several attacks and mysterious explosions in recent years are also attributed to Israel. Israel has made it clear, if diplomacy fails, it will not hesitate to take military action to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. Donald Trump, the self-proclaimed greatest deal-maker and author of The Art of the Deal, has so far failed to secure any deals on the Israel-Hamas war, the Russia-Ukraine war, or the Russia-China trade war. Tell us in the comments, do you think the U.S. and Iran will reach a new nuclear agreement, or will the differences persist?